Pregame session before the Spurs take on the Portland Trail Blazers. So this is Paul Garcia, host of the Spurs Cast, also write for ProjectSpurs.com. So what I'm going to do here is we're just trying this out a little bit. I'm going to be going through just some things that Coach Pop and Coach Chauncey Billups said on their pregame broadcast, or not pregame broadcast, pregame media sessions. And then from there, I'll just kind of do a quick preview of some questions I have regarding the Spurs and Trailblazers game upcoming soon here at 9 o'clock Central Time. So let's first begin with Coach Pop. He did have some news here. Doug McDermott is officially back in the lineup. So is Devin Vassell. They are both healthy. They're ready to play tonight. So some news, though, that Coach Pop said was that Doug McDermott is going to start. Now, again, that was his position normally. But the reason why I say that's interesting is because the Spurs have actually been playing pretty well with Keita Bates-Diop as in the starting lineup there. They've been having down those lockdown defensive games, especially in their last two wins against the Boston Celtics and Washington Wizards. And we just look at some initial data. This is using cleaningtheglass.com. It's a smaller sample size, but in 79 possessions with the starting unit having Keita Bates-Diop, the Spurs were outscoring teams by 15.4 points per 100 possessions. And, their offense was okay. It was barely better than the team's average at 107.6 points per 100, but it was the defense that was just dramatically different. 92.2 points per 100 with Keita in the lineup. And so, again, when you just look at the personnel, we know that the Spurs' top three defenders are DeJounte Murray, Jakob Poeltl, and Derek White, okay, in some sort of order. So those three defenders are your better plus defenders. Then you got Keldon Johnson, who's not a bad defender. He's not a minus. He's not a player that teams are going to target on defense. Keldon's a good defender. I'd say like an average defender, but again, he's not a minus. When you look at Keita Bates-Diop, even though he doesn't get a lot of minutes, defensively, he also is one of the players who sticks out on the team in different categories on defense. That when he's getting minutes, he's not going to be a minus defender. Also, teams are going to attack him. He's going to help the Spurs with his ability with rebounding to help in switching and lateral movement, just being a bigger body out there for this team. So again, he's not a minus defender either. So in this starting lineup, they were holding teams to 92.2 points per 100 because there was no like player that the offense could target amongst this group. But then we go back to what's going to happen here, and that's Coach Pop putting Doug McDermott back. Now the Spurs weren't totally bad with McDermott in the starting lineup. When we look at this is a bigger sample size, they had played 126 possessions with McDermott as a starter, and they were only getting outscored by 4.7 points per 100. The offense had its problems, only scoring 100.8 points per 100, which is about 6 points per 100 below the team average. Then it was the defense, though. They were a little bit better, but not dramatically better like they have there with Keita. So, again, that's an interesting question is to watch. It looks like that right now the Coach Pop and the staff do want to keep more so offensive-oriented in that starting lineup, keep more balance, bring more shooting, more off-ball movement by having a better offensive player, McDermott, rather than just being a team full of defenders in that starting lineup with Keita Bates-Diop. Now, so it looks like, again, that's what the coaching staff will do is they're going to start with McDermott and keep that group intact. And so, again, we'll kind of see how they go. Maybe they want to see more games of this kind of this starting five. And then if this group has trouble, well, then maybe he looks back at bringing Keita back in the future. But now that McDermott and Vassell are both back, my other question is, what's going to happen with rotation? With those two players out, we saw players like Trey Jones getting a lot of minutes. We saw Brent Forbes getting minutes. We saw Thad Young. We saw Drew Eubanks get a lot of minutes. Lonnie Walker IV as well off the bench. And also Keita Bates-Diop because he was getting to start. Well, now you're bringing two players who are going to get good minutes here in Vassell and Doug McDermott. And what does that do? It really makes a question for the bigs is who's going to be that backup big. So let me go through the current lineup right now for the Spurs. They're going to have DeJounte Murray, Derek White, Keldon Johnson, Doug McDermott, and Jakob Poeltl, of course, in the starting lineup. So then off the bench, though, that's where it gets really interesting. They're going to have, we're assuming Trey Jones continues to get those backup guard minutes at the one. Then Pop doesn't always bring in Brent Forbes early in the first quarter. Sometimes he brings him in the second quarter. It kind of has more so a feel of if the team needs some shooting from outside. So Forbes, I don't know specifically when he'll come into the game. Lonnie Walker's been getting his stable, minutes every night. Vassell's going to get his minutes every night. So then it comes down to that backup five. Does Pop has a choice here? He has Drew Eubanks, who has been getting all the minutes at the backup five normally. Then he still has Thaddeus Young there. And then now he's going to have Keita Bates-Diop because, like I said, Bates-Diop defensively has been playing very well for this team, and he's really helped them find some success in their last two games when they went on this winning streak. So again, I think one or two players might end up being on the bench tonight for a long period of time, and they may not even get to be on the court. And that's because, with McDermott and Vassell getting healthy, it's just going to be just something interesting to watch with how Coach Pop and the staff handle these different rotations now that McDermott and Bates-Diop are back. Going back to what Chauncey Billups said, he basically one important player for Portland tonight, who we don't know his status yet, is Norman Powell. We know that he's a really good scorer for the Blazers. He's currently questionable, and I was hoping to know an answer here if he was going to play or not. But even Coach Billups wasn't sure yet. He basically said that Norman Powell is a game time decision. They're basically waiting to see still if he'll get cleared to play. So for now, if Powell doesn't play, then Coach Billups did say they'd use their same starting lineup, which is going to probably be Tony Snell in the starting lineup alongside Anthony Simons, Robert Covington, what's his name, CJ McCollum, and then also Yusuf Nurkic. So again, if Powell doesn't play, well then that's what the starting lineup for the Blazers will look like. And so I kind of actually have Twitter open at the moment because I'm trying to keep an eye on whether or not the Blazers announce if Powell's going to play or not. So for right now, as I'm discussing this live, we don't know if Powell's going to play, but he's obviously a dangerous shooter for the Blazers and a big playmaker for them, especially with Dame Lillard out of this game. So some comments that Coach Billups did have on the Spurs. This is his first time seeing the Spurs as a head coach, a new head coach in the league. Billups did say that, he calls them a very dangerous team. He says that they compete, that they're the best team at scoring in the paint, which is very true. Very, very young, aggressive team that likes to get in the paint. They had a season high 72 points against the Wizards the other night, carving up their defense with those floaters and layups. And then also Coach Billups basically said what we've seen, if you've watched all the Spurs games, is that they're not going to lay down. This is a team that's going to compete. And we have seen that, the Spurs aren't a team that gets blown out often. And so we have seen them take place in a number of competitive games that go down to crunch time. Even though they've struggled in crunch time, the Spurs, they've at least made it that far to have a lot of their games go down in that area to make teams basically work for those kind of wins whenever they do defeat the Spurs on most nights. And then Coach Billups was asked also about DeJounte Murray, kind of what he's seeing, considering that Coach Billups was a really good point guard when his playing days. And so he basically said that, yeah, he's been very impressed with DeJounte, the progress that he's continued to make year after year. He says that when he sees DeJounte, it looks like he's having fun. He also talked about, of course, defensively, how DeJounte just pressures guys and really tries to get the ball in their hand or makes them uncomfortable with the basketball in their hands when DeJounte is guarding them. So Coach Billups as well was very complimentary of DeJounte Murray. So yeah, that's kind of just some initially what came out of the coaching pregame sessions with Coach Pop and Coach Billups. And now I just want to kind of look at a quick little preview here of the Blazers Spurs game, and just kind of some strategies that I think the Spurs need to look at for this team, or just kind of some areas to highlight. And so as we look at the Blazers, we do know that obviously they're a really good offensive team. It's kind of tough to look at some of this data on offense because we know that Dame Lillard is a huge part of that. So and they're going to be missing him for about 10 days. With the initial reporting. So Dame is not playing tonight. So some of these numbers you do have to consider them a little bit differently without Dame. They're the fourth best offense in the league. They're really good about taking care of the basketball, just like the Spurs. They're good about just making quality shots, whether it's inside or outside. They're one of the best teams in effective field goal percentage. They're pretty good, especially with Yusuf Nurkic. The Spurs need to watch out with him on the offensive glass because the Blazers are pretty good at second chance points. They're in the top 10 there. Even though they don't get a lot of points from the restricted area like the Spurs do, they do attack there a lot. The Blazers get there the fourth most in the league right now with 27.5 attempts. And then mid-range, even though they don't take a lot of mid-rangers, they're 18th in mid-range attempts. They do make them well. They have really good shooters, CJ McCollum, Dame Lillard, Norm Powell, all those different players. So they make their mid-rangers at 45% accuracy when they do take them. And I think the biggest key for this game for the Spurs, though, is the three-point line. The Blazers are fifth in attempts. They average 38.6 attempts per night from three. They're 11th in accuracy, making 35% of their threes. I mean, we just look at all of their top scorers here. They have a number of players who can hit the three ball. CJ McCollum, of course, is going to be the leading scorer entering this game since Dame is out. He's averaging 21 points and 19 shots. He attempts 8 threes a night, making 40% of them. Just a very accurate shooter. Norm Powell, if he plays, averages 17 points on 12 shots. 5 threes he attempts each night, making 44%. Anthony Simons, he's scoring 13 points on 10 shots. He takes 6 threes as well, 39% accuracy, very good shooter, or a good shooter there at 39%. And then Nurkic is not really, he doesn't take as many 3-point attempts, and he doesn't shoot it that well from three, but he is a player the Spurs got to watch for interior. 13 points on 8 shots, an efficient number there. And he also gets on the boards, like I mentioned, with 11 rebounds a game. And then just all the different three-point shooters the Spurs got to watch out for. You, like I said, you have Powell shooting 44%. You have CJ shooting 40%. Ben McLemore comes off the bench. He's knocking down 39% of his threes. Simon's at 39%, and then Robert Covington is down to 37%, but still 37% over a point per shot when he makes those. So again, the Blazers have a number of players that take threes. They like to take a lot of threes, and so that's going to definitely be something that the Spurs need to monitor, because that's the area where they normally get outscored in each game, is the three-point line. And then same thing for the wide open three. The Spurs have to make sure that they don't allow a bunch of wide open threes to these Blazers, because they are dangerous. Norm Powell makes 47% of his wide open threes. CJ 47%. McLemore 46%. Simon's 51%. And then even Covington's the only player who actually struggles on wide open threes. And then one good thing for the Spurs is that the Blazers, because they have so many dangerous shooters, I think teams just don't want to let them have open threes. So because of that, we do see in the data that only 37% of the Blazers' three-point attempts are attempted wide open. So that's one good thing for the Spurs, is that a lot of teams don't let the Blazers get wide open threes because they know that they're a very, very dangerous team. And the Blazers do shoot it well in wide open threes. They make 40% of them as a team. Now, the one area where the Spurs can look for some success here tonight against the Blazers is that the Blazers are not a very good defense. They're actually 27th entering this game in defensive rating. They have a bunch of holes on defense. If we look at some of their stats here, some of their worst stats, their opponent effective field goal percentage, they're dead last in the league. So that means that teams shoot not only well on twos against them, but they also shoot well on threes against the Blazers. So again, that's something where the Spurs can find some highlight, that they're going to get good shots against this Blazers defense, or they should, at least according to the numbers. And so they should be able to get some quality shots against them. The Blazers are pretty good about not letting teams get boards against them. And they're actually, something to monitor, though, is that the Blazers are a pretty good team of stopping fast break points. They're fifth best in limiting fast break points, and that's an area of strength for the Spurs. So, again, we'll see if the Spurs are able to get out and run against the Blazers. The Blazers are 19th in letting teams get to the restricted area, the most efficient area of the basket, which is where teams get layups and dunks. So the Spurs should be able to get comfortable there attacking the rim against the Blazers. The Blazers don't force teams to take a lot of those floater range shots, those non-restricted area shots. So the Spurs, again, should be able to get pretty far into the paint when they do attack the Blazers in the interior. If the Spurs do have to put up those floater type shots, those non-restricted area shots, they're going to score them well, because the Blazers are also dead last in that category, where teams shoot 47.8% on those floater range shots against the Blazers defense. So if the Spurs do get a shot there, it should be an open shot, because that's basically what the data is telling us here. The Blazers also, again, don't force teams to take a lot of mid-rangers. It means that teams are either getting threes against them, or they're able to get to the closest area of the rim. Teams are only attempting 10.1 mid-rangers against them. And then the three-point line, they're kind of like the Spurs. The Blazers allow 35.9 attempts from three. We know that the Spurs don't take a lot of threes, but if the Spurs want to increase their three-point volume tonight, they should be there for them, those three-point attempts against this Blazers defense. And then teams, for some reason, also shoot very well against the Blazers. That means that they're getting a lot of probably wide open shots here. Teams shoot 38% on three against the Blazers for the season right now. That's 29th for the Blazers defense. They are not a good team in that category. So again, these are just some things that I'm monitoring. Is what does the starting lineup look like with Doug McDermott back? What does the rotation look like? Who has to sit out minutes, or who barely gets any minutes now that a lot of different players are healthy. And then just those adjustments on offense and defense for the Spurs, and really monitoring that three-point line. That's going to be one area that I'm going to kind of keep an eye on here. So for Project Spurs, this is Paul Garcia. Just going through a little quick preview before this game takes place.